I think in a kind of very general sense, you can say whenever we are called upon designing a building or a place or a neighborhood, we are of course commissioned to do it for someone. But if every building would only care about its own, you would end up with a city of sort of self-centered individuals. And I think in that sense, we always try to use the need to build as an opportunity to, in a way, create an invitation or a contribution to that particular neighborhood or that particular place. It could be like a waste to energy power plant that also is accessible and enjoyable as a public park because it's so environmentally clean. It could be a factory that isn't fenced off but actually visitable, so that you can see the processes that happen inside and be inspired by the values of said company. So I think in a way to think not just of your clients in the narrowest sense, but to think of the entire city as the people that you are designing for. Mammals and plants. Yeah, but I mean, again, like each project has a different scale and different scope. Like the factory we designed in Norway, we actually took turf from the ground, including wood stubs, etc., and transplanted them on the roof so that the amount of habitat remained constant when it was a forest as when it became a factory. And I think here in Copenhagen with the Copenhagen, we actually, because we had a very limited budget to create the rather vast roof park, so we just took essentially indigenous plants of Copenhagen. So a lot of like basically almost for free weeds, and on year one we planted 60 different species of plants, and after 2 years we did a little survey, and there was now 120 different species. So in that sense, it also became a welcoming habitat for the uninvited. So I think in that sense, again, different projects have different repertoires or different possibilities. But I think even just for the human inhabitants, the more you think of providing space for nature and other species than humans, the more enjoyable it actually becomes for the humans. Like this kind of basic statistical fact that the more green a city is, the more bikeable and walkable it becomes. So the two are not necessarily in competition. They're actually symbiotic with each other. Actually, I think in many ways, because we were actually working on the biodiversity project for Penang, the South Penang Islands, as they're sort of officially called, during the beginning of the pandemic. And around the same time that we started really digging into this idea of a plan for the planet as a kind of research project. And one of the things we were seeing was that if you're doing like, let's say a private house, you can do certain things, but for waste management, you need to be connected to the the city for power. It makes good sense to be connected to the city grid. Of course, you can have some geothermal in Denmark. If you're working in Mexico, you can have some good solar. But we saw that each time you go up in scale, you actually increase the repertoire of what you can do. In a way, as you go up in scale, you gain or win the possibility to make or to design more and more complex ecosystems, and both systems of ecological exchange, but also systems of economical exchange. And for the South Penang Islands, we tried to sort of create a mission that we wanted to increase the biodiversity of the place after the city had arrived. So sometimes a city can be a little bit of a desert in terms of the flora and fauna that is there. In this case, the sea south of Penang is very shallow waters for a few kilometers. So in these shallow waters, the brief was to sort of allow the expansion of Penang. It's kind of the Silicon Valley of Malaysia, and we thought a great requirement could be to say that we should be able to demonstrate and commit to and demonstrate and measure that more species and more life will be able to live there once the islands have been created than was possible before. So that in a way, the making of those islands becomes a positive impact, both, of course, for the people living there, but also for everybody else living there. Yeah, I mean, of course, like obviously, Denmark is a relatively wealthy country, and as such, through like redistribution of income, you may know that in Denmark you roughly pay 2/3 of your income in tax, which of course gives that redistribution of wealth makes everybody relatively well off. I mean, I think we of course practice where we can, where we are, invited to work, and we try in each setting where we practice to make the most of what is available. Of course, in the context of our work with ICON, we are also doing affordable housing for the population in outside Merida. But I think maybe the most impactful you can be as an architect, because even if we became the biggest architectural practice in the world, maybe in my lifetime we would make optimistically, maybe we would make 1,000 buildings. I think at our current rate, we might reach 100, right? So I think the true impact we can have is, regardless of where we practice, that the ideas and the thoughts and the example that we put forward may motivate or inspire or encourage others to do so within the cities or countries where they practice. So of course I'm happy to practice many different places, and over the years we've been invited to look at situations in many different places, but ultimately you can have a direct impact where you're actually working and building, and you can have a bigger impact through the power of your ideas.